Cognitive behavioral therapy is often used as a general label for a number of systems that attend to the roles of cognition and dysfunction and intervention. The cognitive model proposes that our emotions and behavior are the product of our perceptions of situations. Over the past several decades, the schools of thought that created both behavioral and cognitive approaches to counseling have recognized that the synergistic integration of these two approaches may be most effective. There are 8 principles of behavior therapy. Behavior is strengthened or weakened by its consequence. 2, behaviors that are rewarded increase, those that are punished decrease. 3, behavioral approach is functional rather than structural. 4, neutral stimuli can take on the properties of the environment in which they are presented and be conditioned to be positive or negative. 5, behaviorism is anti-mentalist. 6, behavior therapy is data-driven and empirically based. 7, changes clients make in therapy must generalize to their day-to-day lives. And 8, insight alone is not beneficial to a client. Acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, and dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, represent mindful approaches to counseling. ACT is a clinical theory which identifies 6 processes of human functioning: acceptance, being present, cognitive diffusion, self as perspective, values, and committed action. DBT is a holistic perspective in which reality is fluid and is composed of opposing forces, the synthesis of which creates a new set of opposing forces. The goals of cognitive therapy are to identify and change faulty information processing and to modify beliefs that support psychological dysfunction to ones that are more adaptive. The idea is to get the individual to operate based on reflective, constructive processes through the use of conscious control. The goal in behavior therapy is to reduce or eliminate maladaptive behavior and teach or increase the incidence of adaptive responses. Acceptance and commitment therapy approaches change by first fostering a sense of creative hopelessness in the client to help them see that change strategies they have been trying aren't working. DBT therapists use structured approaches with careful attention to balancing the opposites of problem solving and validation, change, and acceptance. The goals of cognitive therapy are to In the late 1960s, Aaron Beck founded the theoretical structure of cognitive therapy. Beck graduated first in his class in high school, majored in English and political science at Brown, then received his MD at Yale. He was classically trained as a psychoanalyst. Most of us have heard of or remember Ivan Pavlov with his classical conditioning experiment on dogs and their response to a bell. Other influences on behavior therapy include Joseph Walp and John B. Watson. The operant model of learning was founded by E.L. Thorndike and then made famous by B.F. Skinner and his prominent experiment on hungry lab rats. Albert Bandura is another noteworthy psychologist who developed modeling theory. The practice of mindfulness goes back centuries and was first founded in East Asia, with roots in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Tibetan meditation techniques. Stephen Hayes, the founder of ACT, became interested in Eastern schools of thought as an undergrad. A panic attack of his was the inspiration to explore these Eastern ideas to give us ACT. Marcia Linehan founded dialectical behavior therapy, specifically to treat highly suicidal individuals. She noticed tension between validating the client, which is acceptance, and addressing the serious need for change, which evolved into the dialectical philosophy of DBT. The cognitive model proposes that our emotions and behavior are the product of our perceptions of situations. There are 3 levels of cognitive processing: the automatic or preconscious, the conscious, and the metacognitive. The automatic level consists of thoughts and other cognitive organizations that are based in survival processes. The conscious level is what we normally regard as thinking. In contemporary behavioral therapy, there are three major models of learning: classical, operant, and observational. Classical conditioning is thought to be an involuntary reflexive process in which a relation between a stimulus and a response that is wired in for evolutionary reasons gets associated with a new stimulus. Operant conditioning starts with the idea that behavior is maintained by its consequences. Reinforcement is the term for consequences that maintain a given behavior. The observational model of behavior therapy is the idea that people can learn by viewing the behavior of others. As stated before, there are 6 processes in human functioning for the ACT theory. First is acceptance, which in this theory means an active, deliberative process of accepting our thoughts or emotions without trying to change them. Being present is the second process. Dysfunctional individuals attend rigidly to the past or future rather than the present. Next is cognitive diffusion, which refers to learning to perceive thoughts as only thoughts. Then we have the idea of self as context, which is how life should be viewed. The last 2 processes in ACT theory are values and commitment, the belief that acting in alignment with our values is rewarding to us and to have some committed action to these values. Similar to ACT is DBT. In DBT, emotion stands on its own as a critical factor in psychological functioning. Emotional regulation refers to the ability to pay attention to emotional experience but not let it carry you away. I believe this cluster of theories is a good fit for me because I've been treated as a client with these theories before successfully and on my own practiced mindfulness somewhat seriously. Earlier this year, I had a full-blown bipolar manic episode in which I needed to be injected twice, restrained, and admitted to 2 different inpatient hospitals. When I got out of these hospitals, I then did an intensive outpatient program that was all CBT focused, including daily 10 to 15-minute mindfulness practices. In this program, they really focused on how our thoughts influence our feelings, which dictate our behavior, creating new situations. I happily exited the program and I have been doing much better ever since and would love to practice with my population using these theories. Despite my own positive experiences with mindfulness, the technique of guided imagery has shown minimal usefulness for clients with psychotic disorders and addictions. Cognitive behavioral approaches ordinarily appeal to clients from a wide array of cultural backgrounds, particularly those whose cultures may discourage the sharing of family-related issues like Latino culture or exploration or exhibition of intense emotional displays like Asian culture. The cognitive behavioral approach is directive, and the counselor is typically perceived to be an expert by the client. Some clients from some cultures like Middle Eastern, Hispanic, and Asian cultures might be comfortable with this perception, whereas others, like some males, may be less comfortable. Clients from some cultures appreciate the directness and the problem-centered and action-oriented nature of behavioral approaches to counseling. For example, clients of Arab and Asian descent frequently expect advice and pursuit of concrete goals within the counseling relationship. Counselors using behavioral approaches sometimes devalue the importance of the therapeutic relationship, and this would be a mistake with individuals of diverse races, ethnicities, genders, and sexual orientations. It is well documented that clients from some cultures are slow to trust European American counselors. Culturally sensitive Caucasian counselors address these issues early and often. The multicultural considerations for counselors using mindfulness-based approaches are similar to the multicultural considerations for cognitive behavioral approaches. Mindfulness may appeal to clients from a wide array of cultural backgrounds, particularly those whose cultures may discourage sharing of family-related issues like Latino culture or exploration or exhibition of intense emotions like Asian culture. Despite my
Clients
own
from some
positive
cultures
experiences with
appreciate the
mindfulness,